From the ashes. The first transmission came on an ordinary Tuesday. Dr. Elena Rice was monitoring deep space frequencies, sipping cold coffee as the autumn rain pattered against the observatory windows. The signal burst through her headphones, not the usual cosmic background noise, but something structured, rhythmic, alien. Within 48 hours, every major observatory on Earth was tuned to the same frequency. The message was decrypted remarkably quickly. Coordinates for a meeting point just beyond Mars' orbit. Earth's nations, after days of frantic diplomacy, assembled a delegation of 12 representatives aboard the UNSS Harmony, our most advanced vessel. "We are making history today," Captain Sanjay Mehta told the delegates as they approached the coordinates. "First contact. Everything changes." He was right, but not in the way anyone hoped. The alien vessel that materialized before them was massive. A dark, angular structure that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The delegation transmitted greeting messages in multiple formats. The response came as a targeting lock. "Weapons systems activating," shouted Lieutenant Park from the tactical station. There, the UNSS Harmony exploded in a silent flash, visible from Earth's telescopes as a brief new star in the Martian sky. 3 days later, they came. They called themselves the Consortium, a coalition of 7 species united by their belief that emerging technological civilizations posed an existential threat to galactic stability. Their policy was simple: identification, assessment, and preemptive neutralization of potential threats. Humanity had just failed their assessment. The first wave targeted military installations and government centers. The second wave hit infrastructure, power plants, communications hubs, transportation networks. By the third day, every major city on Earth was burning. Maya Chen watched from the hills outside what had been San Francisco, clutching her brother's hand as the skyline crumbled. Smoke columns rose like dark fingers against the evening sky. "What do we do now?" Sam whispered, his 14-year-old voice cracking. Maya tightened her grip. Her research lab at Berkeley was gone. Her parents were somewhere in the chaos below. "We survive," she said simply. "And then we fight back." Across the planet, other survivors were coming to the same conclusion. Colonel James Okonkwo gathered the remnants of 3 different military units in the mountains of Nigeria. Dr. Vikram Patel salvaged crucial research data from the ruins of his laboratory in Mumbai. In the frozen wastes of Antarctica, the isolated research stations became humanity's first organized resistance cells. The aliens established processing centers in the ruins of major cities, harvesting Earth's resources with mechanical efficiency. They considered the human survivors a minor nuisance, hardly worth dedicating serious resources to hunting down. This was their first mistake. 6 months after the invasion, Maya found herself in an underground bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, part of a hastily assembled think tank of surviving scientists and military strategists. "They don't understand us," she told the room, projecting sensor data onto a makeshift screen. "Their neural structure processes information differently. They're powerful, yes, but they're predictable. They follow patterns. And humans don't," added Dr. Patel, now serving as the group's chief xenobiologist. "Our unpredictability confuses their tactical algorithms." Colonel Okonkwo leaned forward. "You're saying our chaos is our advantage?" "Exactly," Maya nodded. "They expect logical responses, retreat patterns, surrender conditions. When we don't behave as expected, it creates delays in their decision cycles. We need to amplify that advantage," said General Rodriguez, the highest-ranking military officer to survive the initial assault. "Hit them where they don't expect, retreat when they anticipate confrontation. And we need to understand their technology," added Dr. Ivanova, running her fingers through gray-streaked hair. "Every piece we salvage, every craft we down gives us more insight." In the year that followed, humanity fought not as nations, but as a species. Former enemies became allies. Religious differences and political ideologies faded against the starker contrast of human versus other. Underground networks spread across continents, sharing intelligence, resources, and increasingly, hope. Maya's team made the first breakthrough, a frequency that disrupted the aliens' neural networks, causing temporary disorientation. It wasn't a weapon, but it created a 5-minute window where human forces could strike and retreat. The aliens called it vermin resistance. Humanity called it the beginning. The first major victory came 18 months after the invasion. A consortium processing facility outside the ruins of Berlin went dark after a coordinated attack. Human forces captured intact alien technology, including communication arrays and weapons systems. Most importantly, they took prisoners. Maya spent 3 months studying the captured aliens, learning their biology, their language, their psychology. The more she learned, the more certain she became. Humanity could win this war. They've never encountered a species like us, she told the Resistance Council. They expect specialization, species that excel at one thing, but are limited in others. We're generalists, adaptable to almost any environment, capable of learning almost any skill. And we're angry, added Sam, now 17 and scarred from combat. Don't forget that part. Maya looked at her brother, at the hardness in his young eyes, and felt a pang of sorrow for the childhood he'd lost. Yes, she agreed quietly. We're angry, and they have no concept of what that means. As the third year of occupation began, the consortium ships detected unusual activity in Earth's upper atmosphere. Human-modified vessels, cobbled together from salvaged alien technology and pre-invasion satellites, were establishing a makeshift orbital defense network. Impossible, declared the consortium commander. Their technological level cannot support such advancement in this time frame. But the impossible was happening all across the planet. Human resistance fighters were using modified consortium weapons. Communication networks were bypassing alien jamming systems. And in hidden laboratories, scientists were reverse engineering the invaders' most crucial technologies. The consortium deployed additional forces, expecting to crush the resistance quickly. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move, that melted away rather than standing to fight, that struck from unexpected directions with unpredictable tactics. For the first time in their long history of stabilization operations, the consortium forces found themselves in a war they didn't know how to win. In a bunker deep beneath what had once been Tokyo, Maya Chen looked at the data scrolling across her screen and allowed herself to smile. They're retreating from the coastal cities, she announced, consolidating their forces around their primary landing zones. They're scared, Sam said, his voice tinged with satisfaction. Maya studied her brother's face, harder and older than it should be at 18. Not scared, she corrected. Confused. They don't have a protocol for this situation. She turned back to the assembled resistance leaders. And that means we're winning. The counterattack. Dawn broke over the ruins of Chicago, pale light illuminating the twisted metal and crumbling concrete where skyscrapers had once reached toward the sky. A consortium patrol moved methodically through the rubble, sensors sweeping for signs of human activity. They didn't detect the 50 resistance fighters hiding in the subway tunnels beneath their feet, didn't notice the subtle devices attached to the remaining support structures around them. By the time they registered the danger, the charges were already detonating in a carefully calculated sequence, bringing down a controlled collapse that buried half the patrol while leaving escape routes open for the humans. This was the new face of war, asymmetric, unpredictable, and increasingly effective. General Rodriguez stood before the Global Resistance Council, pointing to a holographic map showing consortium force deployments. They're consolidating, pulling back from territories they can't effectively control. Our hit-and-run tactics are working. But at what cost? Asked Representative Cheng of the Asian Alliance. We lose people in every engagement. They can replace their losses. We cannot. That's where Project Achilles comes in, Dr. Ivanova said, stepping forward. Maya, would you like to present? Maya Chen rose from her seat, The past 3 years etched in the lines around her eyes, though she was barely 30. For months, we've been studying consortium neural patterns, looking for vulnerabilities. We found one. She activated a simulation showing alien neural pathways. Their brains process information in parallel structures, allowing for incredibly fast decision-making. But this speed comes at a cost. They have almost no filter for sensory input. In simple terms, added Dr. Patel, they can't tune things out the way humans can. They process everything. And we can use that against them, Maya continued. We've developed a device that overloads their neural pathways with contradictory sensory information. Not lethal, but completely incapacitating. Colonel Okonkwo leaned forward. You're talking about a non-lethal weapon that only affects them, not us. Exactly, Maya nodded. We've tested it on the prisoners. 3 minutes of exposure renders them unconscious for approximately 2 hours. Their systems simply shut down to protect themselves. Hope, a commodity rare as platinum in recent years, spread through the room. How soon can you deploy these weapons? Asked General Rodriguez. We have the first 50 units ready now, Maya replied. With the manufacturing cells in Australia and Brazil, we can produce 500 more within a month. Then we have our Trojan horse, General Rodriguez said, a smile breaking through his usually grim expression. We hit them all at once, at multiple sites, with a weapon they've never encountered and can't defend against. The meeting continued late into the night, strategic minds plotting humanity's first coordinated global offensive against the occupiers. In his quarters later, Sam found Maya staring at an old photo. Their parents on a beach, smiling, from a world that no longer existed. You should sleep, he said. Tomorrow's going to be busy. Maya didn't look up. Do you ever wonder if we're becoming like them? Cold, calculating, seeing everything as a tactical advantage. Sam sat beside her. The difference is we're fighting to live, not to dominate. And when this is over, we'll remember how to be human again. Maya leaned against her brother's shoulder. Promise. Promise, he said, though they both knew such promises carried little weight in their new reality. Operation Thunderclap launched at dawn. Coordinated attacks on 37 consortium installations across 6 continents. The neural disruptors worked beyond expectations. Alien forces collapsed without firing a shot, leaving resistance fighters to secure facilities, weapons, and vehicles with minimal casualties. By nightfall, humanity had captured more consortium assets than in the previous 3 years combined. But the real prize came 3 days later, when a special operations team infiltrated a command center near former Sydney. We've got their communications network, announced Lieutenant Quame over the secure channel. Full access to their tactical systems, and this is the big one, their navigational charts. Maya's heart raced as she processed this news. The charts show their home systems. All 7 species, plus dozens of other worlds they've stabilized over the centuries. We've hit the mother lode. The strategic implications were enormous. For the first time, humanity could see the full extent of consortium territory, and more importantly, the location of their core worlds, their supply lines, their vulnerabilities. The tide was turning. The consortium's Supreme Command, orbiting in their massive flagship beyond Luna's orbit, faced an unprecedented situation. Their forces were in retreat on multiple fronts. Their secure communication networks had been compromised, and the primitive species they had dismissed as barely worth the resources to subdue was now deploying technologies that mimicked, and in some cases improved upon, their own. This cannot stand, declared High Commander Vrex, their exoskeleton clicking as they paced the command deck. We must regain control. The standard protocols are failing, observed Secondary Commander Zith. Their resistance does not follow predicted patterns. Then we escalate, Vrex decided. Prepare the orbital bombardment platforms. If we cannot control this world, we will render it uninhabitable. The command was transmitted, but the execution faced unexpected delays. Consortium ships reported navigation system failures. Targeting computers malfunctioned. and 3 bombardment platforms went completely offline before firing a single shot. On Earth, Maya Chen addressed an emergency council session. "They're planning to sterilize the planet," she reported, based on intelligence gleaned from the captured command center. "But we've infected their systems with our version of a computer virus. It's buying us time, but not much." "How long?" asked General Rodriguez. 3 days, maybe 4 before they purge their systems and regain full functionality." The room fell silent as the implications settled over them. After all the victories, all the sacrifices, they were still facing extinction. Then Sam spoke up from the back of the room. "What if we take the fight to them?" All eyes turned to the young man who had grown from a frightened teenager to a battle-hardened resistance fighter. "Their flagship is their vulnerable point," he continued. "It houses their central command, their highest leaders. What if we hit that instead of playing defense?" "With what?" asked Colonel Okonkwo. "We've modified some of their shuttles for our use, but nothing that could reach orbit and engage their flagship." Maya straightened suddenly. "The Sydney facility. There's a fully intact consortium assault carrier in the underground hangar. We captured it before they could scuttle it." Hope flickered across faces around the room, quickly tempered by practicality. "We'd need a crew trained to operate it," Representative Cheng pointed out. "We have the simulation programs from their computers," Maya countered. "And I've spent 3 years studying their technology." "It would be a one-way mission," General Rodriguez said quietly. "Even if you succeeded in reaching the flagship, the chances of return would be approximately 0. Maya finished for him. "I know." Sam stepped forward to stand beside his sister. "We'll go. We've lost everything else to them. Might as well bet what's left on one throw of the dice." The next 72 hours passed in a blur of preparation. 20 volunteers, the best pilots, engineers and fighters the resistance could offer, trained relentlessly on simulated consortium systems. Maya and Dr. Patel worked without sleep, programming the neural disruptors to their maximum potency and building a special version designed to affect the entire flagship at once. On the eve of the mission, General Rodriguez found Maya on the observation deck, staring at the stars. "Your parents would be proud," he said, joining her at the railing. "They believed in building things, not destroying them," she replied softly. "Sometimes you have to clear ground before you can build something new." He placed a weathered hand on her shoulder. "When this is over, we'll need builders again. Remember that." Dawn broke over the Australian continent as the captured consortium vessel rose from its underground hangar, its engines leaving a blue-white trail across the sky. Inside, Maya checked the neural disruptor one final time while Sam reviewed the approach vectors with the pilot team. "Consortium security protocols requesting identification," announced Chief Engineer Dias from the communication station. "Transmitting the codes we extracted," Sam replied. "Let's hope they haven't changed them yet." Tense minutes passed as the carrier accelerated toward the edge of space. No defensive fire came. The codes were working. "We're being hailed," Dias reported. "They're suspicious about our flight path." "Ignore it," Maya said. "Full acceleration. We need to reach the flagship before they figure out what's happening." The stars brightened as they left Earth's atmosphere behind, the blackness of space opening before them. And there, looming like a metal mountain, was the consortium flagship, over 2 kilometers of armored hull bristling with weapon emplacements. "They're activating defensive systems," warned the tactical officer. "We've got 30 seconds before they open fire." "All power to engines," Sam ordered. "Get us inside their primary defense perimeter." The carrier surged forward, alarms blaring as consortium targeting systems locked on. The first defensive shots streaked past them, the massive guns unable to track their small, fast-moving vessel effectively. "We're in range," Maya announced. "Activating the disruptor now." She pressed the activation sequence. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then consortium communication channels erupted with confusion. Defense systems cycled down. Targeting locks disengage. "It's working," she breathed. "Their bridge crew is incapacitated." "Taking us in," the pilot confirmed, guiding the carrier toward a docking bay that now lay undefended. As they made their final approach, Maya caught Sam's eye across the command deck. A lifetime of shared experiences passed between them in that glance. Childhood memories, the horror of the invasion, the hardening years of resistance, and now this final gamble. "Whatever happens next," Sam said quietly, "we did this together." Maya nodded, her throat tight. Together. The carrier slipped into the flagship's main hangar bay, settling onto the deck with a gentle shudder. Around them, consortium crew members lay unconscious, felled by the neural disruptor's effects. 2 hours until they start waking up, Maya reminded everyone. "Let's make them count. Stars belong to us." 5 years after Operation Thunderclap, the view from orbital platform Alpha showed a changed Earth. Green was returning to scorched landscapes. New structures rose from the ruins of old cities, their architecture a blend of human tradition and salvaged alien technology. Construction drones swarmed over massive projects, arcologies, vertical farms, energy collectors that drew power directly from the ionosphere. Maya Chen stood at the viewport, her reflection ghosted against the stars beyond. At 35, she bore the physical and psychological scars of a war that had nearly extinguished her species. But today, those scars felt like badges of honor. "Admiral Chen," a voice called from behind her. "The Council is ready for your report." She turned, still not fully accustomed to the title. "Thank you, Lieutenant." The Orbital Council chamber represented humanity's new reality. Delegates from Earth's unified regions sat alongside representatives from 3 former consortium species who had switched allegiance when the balance of power shifted. The chamber itself was built from the repurposed hull of the captured consortium flagship, a symbolic transformation that Maya found deeply satisfying. "Admiral Chen," greeted Council Chairperson Okonkwo, once a colonel, now the elected leader of humanity's new government. "Please update us on the expansion progress." Maya activated the holographic display, showing a 3-dimensional map of nearby star systems. The colony ships have successfully established outposts on both Proxima Centauri and Ta Ceti. Initial terraforming has begun, with the first permanent settlements scheduled for completion within 18 months. Murmurs of approval rippled through the chamber. After nearly being wiped from existence, humanity was now reaching to the stars. "And what of the defensive network?" asked Representative Zhao of the Asian Alliance. "Fully operational," Maya confirmed. "Early warning beacons extend to the Kuiper Belt. The Jupiter and Saturn defense platforms are at 100% capacity. Additionally, our fleet now includes 27 capital ships and over 300 support vessels. Built with consortium technology," observed Culveri, the representative of the Neltherans, one of the defector species. "Ironically, the very weapons they brought to destroy you now ensure your security." "With significant improvements," Maya added with a small smile. "Human innovation has enhanced the base technologies considerably." This was an understatement. Human scientists, freed from the constraints of pre-invasion technological limitations and driven by the urgency of survival, had made leaps that might otherwise have taken centuries. Fusion reactors now powered everything from orbital platforms to personal transports. Gravitational manipulation allowed for faster-than-light travel. Medical advancements had extended human lifespans and cured diseases once considered terminal. "And what of the remaining consortium forces?" asked a delegate from the African coalition. Maya's expression hardened slightly. "Retreating on all fronts. After the fall of their flagship and the defection of 3 member species, their coalition is fracturing. Our intelligence suggests they're facing internal rebellions from other subjugated worlds." "Poetic justice," commented Representative Diaz of the Americas. "The empire built on domination collapses under its own weight." After the briefing concluded, Maya found herself back at the viewport, joined by an unexpected visitor. "Quite a view, isn't it?" said Dr. Vikram Patel, his hair now more gray than black, his face lined with age and past hardships. "I never get tired of it," she admitted. "Seeing Earth from up here, it reminds me what we fought for. And your brother would be proud of what we've built." Maya felt the familiar pang at the mention of Sam. He hadn't survived the mission to the flagship, sacrificing himself to ensure that the neural disruptor reached the Central Command Center when consortium security forces began to recover. His actions had won the war, though he never saw the victory. "He wanted to see the stars," she said softly. "Now we're planting our flag among them." "More than that," Vikram corrected gently. "We're creating something new out there. Not conquering, not dominating, building." This was true. The bitter lessons of the invasion had transformed human society in unexpected ways. Old national rivalries seemed petty after facing extinction together. Religious differences faded in importance compared to the shared experience of human survival. The new colonies were being designed as genuine utopias, sustainable, equitable, freed from the mistakes of Earth's past. "High Commander Chen," a voice came through her communicator. "The Nelvaran delegation requests your presence regarding the Joint Defense Initiative." Maya sighed. "Duty calls. Will you be at the memorial ceremony tomorrow?" Vikram nodded. "Wouldn't miss it." The ceremony, held annually to commemorate both the invasion and the victory, would take place in what had once been Central Park in New York. A monument of black stone and salvaged consortium metal bore the names of billions lost, with a simple inscription: "They tried to erase us. We endured. We prevailed. We remember." Later that evening, aboard her personal shuttle returning to Earth, Maya reviewed reports from the frontier colonies. The data showed thriving communities, scientific breakthroughs, cultural renaissances. Human art was incorporating alien perspectives. Human music was exploring new harmonics possible only with consortium instruments. Human literature was processing the trauma of near extinction and the wonder of rebirth. Her communication panel chimed. "Admiral, incoming transmission from Deep Space Outpost Gamma. Priority 1. Maya straightened. "Put it through." The screen flickered to life, showing Captain Jurgen, his expression tense but controlled. "Admiral, we've detected an unidentified fleet approaching from the direction of the galactic core. Configuration unknown, not matching any consortium design." Maya's pulse quickened. "Hostile actions?" "None so far. They're maintaining distance but have transmitted a request for communication. They claim to represent something called the Assembly, apparently a coalition of species beyond consortium territory." "Intent?" "They say they've been monitoring the situation with the consortium. Our victory has attracted attention." Maya absorbed this, mind racing through implications. Another alien contact. Another potential threat. Or perhaps an opportunity. "Set up a communication relay," she ordered. "Full encryption, all security protocols in place. And alert the Council. We may have new players on the board." "Yes, Admiral." After the transmission ended, Maya gazed out at the stars. Once they had seemed distant, unreachable. Then they had become the source of humanity's greatest threat. Now they represented humanity's future. And apparently, that future was about to become more complex. She thought of Sam, of her parents, of all those lost in the struggle to survive. "We're still here," she whispered to the void. "We endured. We rebuilt. And whatever comes next, we face it on our terms." The shuttle continued its descent toward Earth, a tiny speck of light falling toward a blue world that had nearly been lost, now reborn as the heart of humanity's stellar domain. Behind it, the stars stretched to infinity, no longer sources of dread, but fields of possibility waiting to be explored. They had tried to erase humanity from existence. Instead, they had only propelled us to the stars.